Brexit Day was celebrated at the end of January, but this did not mean Brexit was signed, sealed and delivered. Instead, the UK began a transition year whereby deals would be negotiated between the EU and UK. Brexit's UK chief negotiator David Frost has delivered a statement which concludes round 5 of the negotiations with the EU. The UK and EU have just 5 more months to negotiate the terms and conditions for the future relationship between the two entities. But what did Mr. Frost say about this latest stage of Brexit negotiations? The UK's chief Brexit negotiator David Frost has cast doubt on any deal being met ahead of the December 31 deadline in a shocking new statement. In the statement, Mr. Frost said the UK and EU had not yet reached any agreement despite intensified talks taking place in July. He added considerable gaps remain in the most difficult areas following recent talks in London. The EU's chief negotiator Michel Barnier said Britain was not showing due level of engagement in Brexit talks and therefore underlined the unlikeliness of a trade deal being struck by the end of the transition period. Mr. Frost reiterated this struggle to strike a deal on these difficult topics, but said Britain could still reach an agreement with the EU in September. He said, "We have just concluded our latest round of negotiations with the EU. These were the first formal trade discussions to have taken place in London during these talks and were part of the intensified process agreed for July. It is unfortunately clear that we will not reach in July the early understanding on the principles underlying any agreement that was set as an aim at the high-level meeting on June 15. At that meeting, the Prime Minister set out once again the fundamental principles which we have repeatedly made clear would need to underpin any future agreement and which are intrinsic to the UK's future as an economically and politically independent country. Any agreement needs to honour these principles in full. The EU's proposals so far, while a welcome response to the Prime Minister's statement, do not do so, and therefore substantial areas of disagreement remain. Specifically, the EU has listened to the UK on some of the issues most important to us, notably on the role of the Court of Justice, and we welcome this more pragmatic approach. Similarly, we have heard the EU's concerns about a complex Switzerland-style set of agreements and we are ready to consider simpler structures, provided satisfactory terms can be found for dispute settlement and governance.